If there is someone you deeply care about, maybe a parent, grandparent, or your partner, and you feel they could be nearing the last chapter of their life, please don't turn away. This video is not a story. It is not a trick to get views, and it is certainly not about drama. What I am going to share with you is very real, taken straight from the quiet, deeply personal world of hospice care. This is not meant to cause fear. It is about helping you understand, helping you be ready, and more importantly, helping you respect some of the most meaningful moments we will ever experience. Speaking personally, as a man, a son, and someone who once sat silently beside a hospital bed holding back tears, I can say this was one of the hardest things I've ever heard, but it also changed how I understand death completely. I hope you listened to it the same way I did. A few months ago, I had a chance to speak with Carla, a hospice nurse who has worked in end-of-life care for almost 20 years. She's walked alongside people in their final months, held the hands of those slowly letting go, listened to final words spoken in shaky voices, and watched last breaths taken with a kind of quiet respect that only someone who's witnessed this many goodbyes can truly have. And during our talk, she told me something I cannot forget. In her calm, even voice, she said there are signs, small, quiet ones that start to show up as early as a year before death. Not in the last days, not in the final hours, a full year before. We see them again and again, she said, but families miss them, not because they are careless, just because nobody ever teaches them what to watch for until it is too late. So today, I want to share 6 of those signs, exactly how she explained them to me. And if anything I say reminds you of someone you love, if even one thing I describe stirs something inside you, please leave a comment with just one word. Yes, that one word lets the rest of us know that we are not the only ones, that the moment you are in, or the memory you carry, is something others understand too. And before I tell you the first sign, take a second to like this video and subscribe. We are building a space here where stories like this are not kept in silence, but spoken aloud to honor the people who matter most. Maybe this does not seem like a video you need right now, but it could be the one you return to one day. Carla looked me in the eyes, calm and steady, and said, "The first change we see is not physical, it is emotional." That stayed with me, because it was unexpected. Most of us assume that age or illness would show up in the body first, but Carla shared something deeper. She said people start to slowly pull away from the world, and often, they are not even aware it is happening. She explained how people who once laughed easily or brightened a room begin to grow more silent, not sad, not hopeless, just quieter, more inward. They stop making phone calls, they begin to cancel small plans, they skip birthdays, church gatherings, even simple Sunday dinners, and sometimes they stop opening the door altogether, even for the ones they love the most. It is like they are gently stepping away, Carla told me, not because they are afraid, not because they are unhappy, but because they are slowly becoming comfortable with the idea of no longer being here. I asked her, "Do families get scared when this happens?" She nodded without hesitation. Time, but they usually do not recognize it for what it truly is. Most assume their loved one is simply tired or slowing down with age, but often, that quiet distance comes from something deeper. It is the body and the spirit beginning the slow and gentle process of letting go. When she said that, something in me shifted, because I remembered the time my grandfather stopped joining us at the dinner table, when he chose to stay seated, even when the baseball game came on, something we both loved watching. Back then, I thought he was just exhausted, but maybe he had already started his goodbye. Carla took a breath, and what she shared next gave me goosebumps. She said, "The second sign is travel." I was confused. "You mean they begin planning trips?" She shook her head gently. "No, not that kind of travel. They start talking about going somewhere, but not in a real-world sense. Through their words, their dreams, or how they speak in symbols." She said patients say things like, "I need to start packing soon," or "I think I'm going away for a while." Some even ask if their passport is ready. A few want to know when the train will arrive. One man, she said, kept asking if the train was late. He said his father was waiting at the station for him. These are not confused or random thoughts. These are quiet, meaningful expressions. And Carla explained it does not depend on what they believed, whether they followed a faith or believed in nothing. This change still happens. She said it is a spiritual shift, and this idea of crossing over just naturally appears. She told me it is as if something deep in the soul senses that the journey is near, not just rest, not only sleep, but a leaving, a passing, a return home. I sat there, silent, because I remembered something my great-aunt once said. She was not someone who traveled. She lived her whole life in one small town, never had a passport. But one night, she turned to my mother and quietly said, "I think the boat is coming soon." She passed away 3 weeks later. I had not thought about that moment in years until Carla reminded me, and now it means everything. So I want to pause and ask you something. Has anything like that ever happened to someone close to you? A strange sentence, a dream, a quiet moment that didn't seem important at the time but now maybe does? If so, could you do something small but meaningful? Just type yes in the comments. You do not need to explain, but that one word might help someone else watching this video feel less alone. Because when grief is shared, it becomes a little lighter, and understanding these signs may be the first step in finding peace with something none of us ever truly feel ready for. And if you are still here with me, thank you. It takes real strength to hear something this raw, this honest. But I believe it makes a difference. You matter. And the person you are thinking about right now, they matter too. Their story, their voice, and their goodbye, it all matters. So let us keep going. Because the third sign Carla shared with me may be the most emotional and the hardest to accept. Carla leaned in slightly and paused, like what she was about to say needed to be spoken with care. The third sign, she said gently, is one of the most touching things I see, but also one of the most misunderstood. She waited a moment, letting her words sink in. They begin giving things away, she said. Not because they are trying to clean up or get rid of clutter, not because they are downsizing, not because they to organize things or clear out clutter, but because, deep inside, they feel the time has come. I stayed quiet and just listened, and in that silence, I could feel the truth in what she was saying. He will hand you a photograph, Carla went on, or maybe a book or a piece of jewelry, and say something simple like, "I want you to have this." And in that moment, even if it feels small, what they are really doing is giving you a piece of their story. She shared a memory of one patient, a woman in her early 80s, who gave her grandson an old, dusty toolbox. He thought it was just some junk, Carla said, but she told him, "This belonged to your great-grandfather. He used it to build our first home. I want you to fix things the way he did, with care." A week later, she passed away. Carla leaned back slightly and gave a gentle, knowing smile. "It is never just about the item," she said. "It's about the meaning, the legacy, the message behind it. That gift is like a bridge across time. And when someone hands it to you, they are not just giving something to hold on to. They are giving you something to carry forward." The more I thought about it, the more I realized my own father had done something similar. A few months before he had a stroke, he handed me his old wristwatch. He didn't explain. He didn't make a big speech. He simply placed it in my palm and said, "Keep it running." I smiled then. I didn't think much of it at the time. But now, all these years later, I understand. That watch was not just a watch. It was his quiet way of saying that time is valuable and that mine would continue, even after his stop. So, if someone you care about has been offering you old letters, keepsakes, or little things from the past that might seem random or unimportant, do not ignore it. Sit with them. Ask what the object means. Let them share the story behind it, because you could be holding their farewell, a final message, a thread of love they may not know how else to express. Now, the fourth sign Carla spoke of was something deeper, something spiritual, but not in the way people usually think. She said many of her patients, even those who never went to church or who claimed not to believe in anything, begin to ask big questions, questions about life, meaning, and what comes next. They start speaking their thoughts out loud. She said quietly, "Why are we here? What happens after we die? Will I see my loved ones again?" And it made no difference if they had spent their whole lives leaning on science or facts. Something inside them began to shift. It's not fear, Carla told me. It's wonder. It's reflection. It's the beginning of making peace with what we do not know. She told me about a patient named James, a retired Marine. He had always been firm in his beliefs or lack of them. He would say he didn't believe in anything, didn't need religion, didn't care for heaven. But one evening, Carla found him sitting by the window, quietly looking at the stars, and in a soft voice, as if speaking only to himself, he said, "I think someone's waiting for me." He never said who, he didn't say where, but the look on his face, it was calm, peaceful. He passed away quietly the next morning. In their final year, Carla said, people start letting go of the world around them, not with sorrow but with grace. Begin reaching towards something beyond this world. And sometimes, they truly seem to find it. That stayed with me more than I expected, because it reminded me of something simple, yet meaningful, that we are more than just bodies and breath. There is a soul within each of us, something quiet and sacred. And long before the heart stops, that soul starts getting ready. So if you have noticed this in someone close to you, if you have seen them start asking deeper questions, looking for meaning, or speaking more gently about life and what comes next, I would ask you to do something small, yet meaningful. Type yes in the comments. Just one word that says, "I've noticed this too." It might help others, those who are grieving, remembering, or silently wondering, realize they are not alone. And if this video has spoken to you, if it brought up emotions or memories you did not expect, please like this video and subscribe. Not just for this channel, but for the community. We are building a place where these stories are heard and held. A space where truth can be shared with kindness, and where loss is met with understanding. Now take a breath with me, because the last two signs Carla shared were the most surprising. One of them even gave me chills because I saw it happen with someone I love, and I did not understand what it was until now. Carla's voice grew softer. She leaned back slightly, her hands resting gently in her lap. I could tell what she was about to say meant something. She looked down for a moment, then back up, and said quietly, "The fifth sign is that they begin seeing people others cannot." I did not interrupt. I waited. "It happens more than people think," she explained. "Sometimes it's just days before they pass. Other times it starts earlier, weeks, even months ahead. They might look toward an empty part of the room and smile, or speak softly like they are talking to someone invisible." She looked straight at me, and almost always, it is someone they loved and lost. Carla told me about a man named Leonard who had lost his wife 3 decades earlier. One morning, he turned to her and said, "She's been standing in the doorway all night. She still looks the same." Carla smiled, not with doubt, but with understanding. "And I believed him," she said quietly, because the calm on his face said more than proof ever could. I asked if that scared families. She nodded gently. "Sometimes it does, but more often, it brings them comfort. Because the person who is dying, they do not look afraid. They look reassured, like they are being quietly reminded that they will not go alone." She paused, letting the silence settle. Then she added, "I've had patients call out the names of their mothers, their children, even names they never mentioned to anyone else." She looked at me and said something I will always remember. "The people they love, they come back. Not always in a way we can measure, but in a way the soul can recognize." That gave me chills, because just before my own mother passed, a few days before the end, she looked right past me and said, "Dad." Her father had died when she was only 12, but her face lit up, not with fear or confusion, but with joy, as if she was truly seeing him again, not just thinking of him. And all these years later, I finally understand what that moment meant. So, if you have ever witnessed something like this, if someone you cared for began reaching toward a quiet part of the room, softly saying names from the past, or smiling like someone just walked in, please do not ignore it. Let that moment sit with you, because maybe, just maybe, they were not alone. Maybe someone who once loved them had returned to guide them home. If you have ever seen anything like this and it touched something deep in your heart, type yes in the comments. That small word might bring comfort to someone else holding onto the same memory. It reminds us that love does not disappear, it stays. And if this video helped you feel understood, or if it brought tears, peace, or even just a moment of clarity, please take a second to like and subscribe. This channel is not just about sharing content. It is about creating a space for healing, for connection, and for remembering what really matters. Now, about the sixth and final sign Carla shared, this one surprised me the most because it did not look like sadness or spirituality. It looked like energy, a sudden burst of life. It's something we call the rally, Carla said. Not everyone experiences it, but when it happens, it often surprises the whole family. She explained how someone who has been quiet and weak for weeks or even months suddenly wakes up with light in their eyes. They sit up, they smile, they ask for food, they laugh. They say things like, "I feel really good today," and the family, they light up too. They think, maybe this means things are turning around. They begin to hope again, Carla said. She looked away briefly, her voice growing softer. But most of the time, it is not healing, it is a gift. A final burst of energy before the soul lets go. I asked her why this happens. She paused and said, "No one really knows for sure. Some believe it is the body's last spark. Others think it is the soul's way of taking one last look at everything it loves." Then she shared the story of a young girl named Ella. She had been fighting cancer and had not smiled in weeks. One afternoon, she asked to go outside. She danced barefoot in the grass. Carla whispered, "It was only for a few minutes." Then Ella looked at her mother and said, "I'm ready now." That night, she passed, and I will be honest with Carla sitting across from me, sharing these stories from someone who has been present for hundreds of final goodbyes. I understood something I never had before. Dying is not always a slow fading. Sometimes it is a last light, a brief, beautiful spark, a moment that gently says, "Please, do not remember me in the hospital. Remember me in the sunlight, in the laughter, in that smile." So if someone you love had that kind of moment, a rush of energy, a sudden return of themselves, share it. Type yes in the comments. Your story might be the one someone else needs to help them make sense of what they saw and what it meant. Now, as all 6 signs come together, these quiet, powerful signals from the final year of life, I want to end with what Carla said. When I asked what we should actually do once we start to notice them, once we begin to understand that goodbye may be near, I sat there in silence as Carla gently folded her hands in her lap and said, "You know, people often ask me what should I do when I begin noticing these signs. When I start to feel that someone I care about might be nearing their final days. Should I bring it up? Should I just keep things normal? What's the right way to say goodbye?" She looked down and stayed quiet for a while. When she looked up again, her eyes were soft, holding years of experience, sorrow, and understanding. "You don't need perfect words," she said. "You just need to be there, fully, truly there." Then she said something that has stayed with me ever since, something I still hear in my mind whenever I think of the people I've lost. She said, "If someone you love is beginning to let go, don't rush them. Don't try to fill the silence. Don't pretend nothing is changing. Just be there. Hold their hand. Listen more than you speak. And when you do speak, say what's real." I asked her what she meant by real. She smiled. "Tell them what they meant to you. Tell them what they taught you, what you'll never forget. Say the things you've kept inside for too long, and say them now, while you still have the chance." Her voice was calm, but her eyes held something heavy, the weight of too many moments where those words came too late. Then she shared a story that has never left me. It was about a daughter sitting with her dying father. They had barely spoken in years. Their relationship had always been distant, quietly strained by unspoken pain. But one afternoon, as he lay in bed with shallow breaths, barely able to respond, she leaned in close and said softly, "I forgive you, and I hope you can forgive me too." He didn't open his eyes. He didn't say a word, but one tear rolled down his cheek. And in that moment, something passed between them, not in words, but in something deeper. A quiet kind of peace, a letting go. That, Carla said, is what presence means. It's not about fixing everything. It's about releasing what needs to be let go. She looked away for a moment, then met my eyes and said something I will always carry with me. Dying doesn't always look like suffering. Sometimes it's the moment everything becomes clear, when people stop pretending and finally speak from the heart. And those words stuck with me because over and over again, I've seen they are true. So, if someone you love is showing these signs, growing quieter, giving away things they've held onto, reflecting more deeply, mentioning names you don't recognize, or shining with sudden joy in their final days, please do not ignore it. Do not explain it away. Sit beside them, hold their hand, be still with them. Tell them their life mattered. Tell them what they gave you. Tell them what you'll carry forward. Let them know they were seen, they were loved, and they left a mark that time cannot erase. Because the greatest regret isn't that someone is gone. It's knowing we never told them what needed to be said while they were still here. Carla told me something else that caught me off guard. She said in all her years working in hospice, the families who had the hardest time after losing someone were not the ones who cried the most or wept loudly. It was the ones who kept their feelings inside. The ones who waited too long to speak. And that struck me, because I've been that person. The one who assumed there was still time. The one who held back, thinking the right moment would come later. The one who waited until it was too late. So maybe, at its core, this video is not only about recognizing the signs of the final year, but also about recognizing the time we still have to be present, to speak honestly, to care deeply, and to make peace while we still can. Before I left, I asked Carla one last question. I asked if she ever felt worn out, if being around so many goodbyes, so much heartbreak, and healing ever became too much. She smiled, not sadly, but with a quiet warmth in her eyes. No, she said, because each goodbye teaches me something new about living. So now I want to ask you something. If someone in your life is showing even one of these 6 signs, what would you say to them? If today was your last opportunity, if that question stirs something in you, if it brings back a memory or touches a feeling you've tried to avoid, I invite you to type just one word in the comments. Yes. It might seem small, but it carries weight. It shows others they're not alone, that what they feel is real and shared. And if you feel ready, share your story. You never know who might need to hear it right now. Your memory might be the one that helps someone else quietly carrying their grief. Before this video ends, I want to ask one final thing. Please subscribe, not for numbers, not for growth, but for connection, for building a space where moments like this are welcomed, where they don't get lost in timelines or scrolled past, but stay with us where they matter most. Because when we speak honestly about endings, we begin to value what's in the middle, the little things we used to overlook. The easy conversations at the table, the scent of a favorite dish, the sound of their voice calling out from another room. Those are the real moments, the sacred ones, the ones we never realize meant so much until they're gone. So, thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with this story. Thank you for remembering those you love, whether they've already left or are slowly getting ready to. And as you step back into your life, carry this with you. It's not about how someone leaves, it's about how we care for them while they're still here. And that, truly, is what matters most. Love from old is gold, wisdom